Hey guys, I'm Bob from Vetus Maxwell, and I'm here to teach you a little bit about how to take care of your Vetus bow thruster. This is going to be fairly typical on most of our models, so what applies to this can carry over the rest of the models with just a few exceptions. So we're going to talk about care and feeding. Obviously a thruster is something like your main engines on your boat. It's something that when you need them, and you need to depend on them. A little bit of preventative maintenance goes a long way. So we're going to talk about probably the best thing you can do for your thruster first off, and one of the major sources of problems is bad batteries or lack of battery capacity. Think of this thing as a large starter motor. It requires a lot of amps and it needs them in a big hurry. Hence we have large cables on these things. If your batteries are not up to the job, you're going to damage your thruster and it's not going to be there when you need it. Before we go any further, let's talk about safety. This is a large DC electric motor with a lot of current going through it. So it's really important that this thing has tight connections, everything's clean. It's also extremely important that you don't have this mounted in a place where you store a bunch of cleaning supplies, things that are flammable. In other words, keep your solvents, your dirty rags, your toilet paper out of the compartment where the thruster motor is, because it's large, it's hot. You don't want that stuff there. So it's a safety thing. We're going to get into making sure the connections are good. Not only for safety reasons, but the other reason you want the connections to be solid and clean is because the thruster will work well, it'll run the way it's supposed to, and you also won't damage it. Low voltage is probably the major cause of damage to our bow thrusters. If you're not getting voltage to the thruster, a couple things are going to happen. Mostly what you're going to see is damage to what's underneath this box. This is the solenoids that turn this motor on and off and do the switching to allow it to go left and right or port and starboard. If the voltage is low, not only won't it run, but these solenoids will start to click, or they won't operate at all. Typically what you'll see on low voltage is these things will start to chatter. Someone will turn the thruster on, they'll click, click, and it'll go click, 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 click. Click, 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 almost like when the car battery is dead in your car and you go to turn the ignition and you hear click, 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 same thing. What's going on internally though is you don't have enough voltage to close the contacts in here. There's little plungers that go up and make the connection, and they need a little bit of force behind them. If you don't have enough voltage, what's going to end up happening is they're not going to be able to close. They're going to chatter back and forth, and as they do that, they're going to arc. And those little contacts are going to damage themselves because they're basically arcing. At some point, they're either going to give up the ghost or they're going to weld themselves shut. And now you're going to have a thruster that could be stuck on or is completely inoperable because of that. So low voltage, not good. We don't want to see, if you have a 12-volt thruster, say your system voltage is 13.8, we don't want to see more than a 10% voltage drop when this thing's operating. So that's a real easy one to check. You can put your meters on it. Try to activate the thruster, see what the voltage does. But you don't want to see more than a 10% voltage drop, ideally, on these. You start to see, on a 12-volt thruster, you start to see 7, 8 volts. You're just going to kill the solenoids, and the thruster's not going to run. So the second thing we typically see on thrusters, especially with a new boat owner, they haven't had one before. We get a lot of questions every spring. I turn my thruster on, it doesn't work. I hit the button, it just beeps at me. Doesn't work. Well, that's because we have a safety in this. It requires that you hit this button twice in 5 seconds. So you can't accidentally turn it on. Hit it once, hit it a second time within 5 seconds, and now your thruster will work. Now this is just a dummy. I only have a little bit of amperage going to this because otherwise it would be spinning and kind of a little out of control sitting here on a table. But that's something to keep in mind.